What if I told you that the person most likely to become a millionaire in your office isn't the manager, isn't the highest earner, and it's definitely not the person who looks the wealthiest? It's the quiet one who brown bags their lunch, drives a sensible car, and has been automatically investing a few $100s every single month for the past 15 years. Sounds boring, right? Good, because boring is exactly how ordinary salaries build extraordinary wealth. And today I'm going to show you the precise roadmap to make that happen from your 9 to 5. Let me hit you with a number first. According to Federal Reserve data, only about 2.5% of Americans have $1 million or more sitting in their retirement accounts. 2.5%. In a country obsessed with wealth culture, hustle content, and get-rich-quick schemes, the overwhelming majority of people never actually reach that milestone. And here is the uncomfortable truth behind that statistic. It rarely has anything to do with how much they earned. It has everything to do with what they did with what they earned. So let's set the stage properly. We're talking about the median American worker, not the average, because the average gets dragged upward by a small number of people making astronomical incomes. The median, which is the person sitting right in the dead center of the income distribution. In 2026, that number sits at roughly $62,000 a year. That's our person. That's who this entire roadmap is built around. Someone who will probably never crack six figures in their career. Someone who goes to work Monday through Friday, clocks out, comes home, and is trying to figure out how to make their financial life actually work. Here's the first thing you need to understand, and it's the foundation everything else gets built on. Your savings rate matters more than your salary. Read that again. Savings rate, not salary. The gap between what you bring in and what you spend is the engine of your entire wealth-building machine. If you earn $62,000 and spend $62,000, your gap is zero. And a gap of zero means no fuel in the engine, no compounding, no wealth creation, no millionaire outcome. Now, the trap most people fall into isn't one catastrophic financial decision. It's death by 1,000 small ones. The food delivery apps you're using 3 times a week. The credit card balance quietly accumulating interest at 22%. The apartment that was only $150 more per month than the cheaper one. Each of these feels trivial in isolation. Together, they systematically drain the gap that could be building your future. The fix isn't about living like a monk. It's about being intentional. Write down what you earn and what you spend. See the gap right in front of you. Then protect it aggressively. Here's a real-world illustration of why this matters so much. Consider someone earning $700,000 a year, a genuinely massive income by any standard, who still struggles to save money because private school tuition, an overextended mortgage, multiple car payments, and constant lifestyle expansion have consumed every dollar of that enormous paycheck. Meanwhile, someone earning $62,000 who saves and invests just 10% of their income actually ends up keeping more wealth. The high earner's gap is near zero. The average earner's gap is generating compound growth. Savings rate wins. Now let's talk about what to actually do with that gap, because this is where the magic lives. When you consistently invest even a modest amount every single month, time becomes your most powerful partner. Let's run the numbers on our $62,000 earner. Saving 10% means setting aside around $500 per month. If that money goes into a broad market index fund starting at age 25, by age 65, you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 million. That's not a fantasy. That's not a special situation. That's the baseline outcome for someone who starts early and stays consistent. But look at what happens when you delay. Start at 35 instead of 25 with that same $500 per month, and you're looking at around $680,000 by retirement. That single 10-year delay cost more than $870,000. The math on procrastination is brutal, and it compounds just as powerfully as your investments do, just in the wrong direction. The action item here is simple but non-negotiable. Open a retirement account. A Roth IRA is one of the best starting points for most people at this income level because your money grows and can be withdrawn in retirement tax-free. Pick a low-cost, broadly diversified index fund. Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab. They all offer funds with expense ratios as low as 0.03 to 0.05%. Then automate the monthly transfer so it happens whether you feel motivated that day or not. Automation removes willpower from the equation, and willpower is an unreliable financial strategy. Now, if you're watching this and you already saved 10%, push it to 15 or 20, because the numbers shift dramatically. At 15% savings, that same person reaches roughly $2.4 million by retirement. At 20%, it climbs toward $3.2 million. The difference between being a millionaire and being a multimillionaire on an ordinary salary isn't secret investments or lucky stock picks. It's just the percentage of your paycheck you redirect toward your future every single month. And what's the enemy of that? Lifestyle inflation. Every time you get a raise, you face a decision. Do you expand your lifestyle to match the new income? Or do you keep your spending roughly the same and funnel that extra money into investments? Most people choose the upgrade, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying your money, but the sequence matters enormously. Let the wealth accumulate first. Let the compound growth get established. Then allow your lifestyle to expand from a position of genuine financial security, rather than an optimistic assumption about future income. Let's shift to the concept that makes everything else work, and that's time in the market. Not timing the market, time in the market. Compound growth has a fascinating characteristic that most people intellectually understand, but emotionally struggle to actually live. The growth is dramatically backweighted. It's slow and modest in the early years, then explosive in the final stretch. Here's a concrete illustration. Imagine investing $6,000 a year at an 8% annual return. After 20 years, you've accumulated around $283,000. Respectable, but not jaw-dropping. Then look at year 30. That balance has grown to approximately $718,000. And just 4 years later, at the 34-year mark, you've crossed $1 million. Think about that. You made more money in those final 4 years than in the first 20 combined. This is the compounding curve doing exactly what it's designed to do. Warren Buffett is the most famous living example of this principle. He was worth about $3 billion at his 60th birthday. Today, his net worth exceeds $146 billion. More than 99% of that wealth was built after age 50. Not because his strategy changed, but because compound growth simply needed enough runway to reveal its full power. This is also why the single most damaging financial behavior during market downturns is panic selling. When the market drops, the instinct is to exit, to protect yourself by moving to cash. But here's what the data shows. Missing just the 10 best performing days in the market over a 20-year period cuts your total returns by roughly 56%. Missing 20 of those best days reduces gains by about 74%. And when do those best days tend to occur? Immediately following some of the worst ones. The person who panic sells locks in their losses and then sits in cash on the very days that would have rebuilt their portfolio. The correct move during market turbulence is genuinely counterintuitive. It's to do absolutely nothing and stay invested. Now let's talk about a pillar that doesn't get enough attention, and it's the one that silently destroys returns without people even realizing it. Fees. When you invest in any fund, that fund charges an annual expense ratio. A typical index fund from a major provider might charge 0.05% per year. Sounds trivial, but some managed funds charge 0.5%, 1%, or even more. On a $10,000 investment, 1% is $100 per year. On a growing portfolio over decades, a 1% fee can reduce your final balance by hundreds of thousands of dollars compared to a low-cost alternative. SEC data shows that over 20 years, a 1% annual fee on a $100,000 portfolio reduces your ending balance by nearly $30,000 compared to a fund charging just 0.25%. On the flip side of fees is free money, and you should be taking every dollar of it available to you. The clearest example is employer retirement matching. Around 63% of retirement plans include some form of matching contribution, according to Vanguard research. If your employer offers to match contributions up to a certain percentage of your salary, and you aren't contributing at least that much, you are leaving free compensation on the table. Other legitimate sources of free money include high-yield savings account interest, health savings accounts which carry a triple tax advantage, and even cash-back credit cards when used with complete discipline. Now let's zoom out and look at what makes your 9-to-5 even more powerful than you're probably treating it. Your job has leverage beyond the paycheck. Negotiate your raises using documented evidence of your contributions, your completed projects, your impact on revenue or efficiency. Research what comparable roles pay at other companies and use that information strategically. People who switch jobs periodically tend to see significantly stronger wage growth over their careers than those who stay put. And each salary increase compounds the value of future ones. Also, examine your total compensation package. Employer pension matching, healthcare benefits, stock options, profit-sharing schemes. These can add tens of thousands of dollars in real value beyond your base salary. When evaluating job opportunities, look at the complete picture, not just the number on the offer letter. Here's the final truth I want to leave you with, because it brings everything together. Ronald Reed worked as a gas station attendant and part-time janitor his entire life. His income was modest by any measure. When he passed away in 2014 at age 92, his net worth was nearly $8 million. He didn't do anything complicated. He spent less than he earned, invested consistently in quality companies, and left time to do its work. Grace Groner was a secretary for 43 years. Her neighbors had no idea she was wealthy. She wore second-hand clothes, lived in a small house, and walked everywhere. She left behind an estate worth $7.2 million. Same principles, different person, same result. The path to $1 million on an ordinary salary has never required a spectacular income, a hot stock tip, or a viral side hustle. It requires protecting the gap between what you earn and what you spend, investing consistently into low-cost index funds, refusing to interrupt compounding through panic or impatience, avoiding fees that quietly drain your returns, and capturing every dollar of free money your employer offers. None of these steps are complicated. All of them require patience. And patience, it turns out, is the rarest and most valuable financial skill of all. The 9-to-5 millionaire isn't a myth. The roadmap is right here. The only question left is whether you start today or keep waiting for a perfect moment that will never come.